Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Andre Van Lund here with me today. He's on mute right now and he doesn't know it, but he knows it now. And I want to say hi to each and every person who's tuned in, whether you be on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Facebook, or YouTube. Deeply appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe to the video, and help us build a community. Andre, how you feeling out there?
I'm feeling excellent, Cedric. How are you?
I'm feeling absolutely phenomenal, and real happy to talk to you tonight, to learn your story, and to discover your perspectives. Just a couple things I just want to say, everybody. I have some things on my mind tonight. I'm thoughtful about our communities, the things that are happening in our communities. I'm thoughtful about the way that we look at life and the way that we value life. And I'll be looking forward to your comments tonight, just pertaining to the journey of Andre and at large. If you want to say something about something, drop a comment. Let us know that you're in the building. Andre, where are you from?
Well, I'm born and raised New York City.
Okay.
I was born at St. Luke's Hospital.
Okay.
That's Harlem.
Okay.
And then I was in the Bronx for a long while. And I call Brooklyn my hometown.
Okay,
So,
wow.
Yeah. So I got the whole tour.
Right. So you were born in Harlem. How long did you live in Harlem?
I was in Harlem for around 2 years.
Okay.
I was in Harlem for 2 years, and I know that because when my little brother was born, that is when we were given up. And my brother is 11 months younger than me.
Given up. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that we were given up by our parents. My mother and my father they sort of got together, and my mother did not know my father had an entire family.
Oh,
and so he put her up and had her on the side of his family.
Okay.
And that was in Harlem. And then he actually moved his family, and she moved behind him to the Bronx. So he moved two families without his natural family knowing, his first family knowing.
Right.
And that occurred around the time that my little brother was born. And so when that was age 2, and then my formative years were spent in the Bronx.
Okay. What was it like for you and your brother growing up in the Bronx? What did the Bronx look like at that time? What was the experience like for you?
So for me, I was in a lot of foster homes. I was in 7 foster homes and 2 group homes. And all of that happened before the age of 7 for me. So no hugging, no kissing, no touching, no love, no maternal or paternal love either. I didn't receive any of that. And that affected both me and my brother differently. Whereas I sort of was able to latch on to little shreds of light. My brother did not. But the Bronx back then, it was mostly abandoned buildings. Graffiti everywhere, shootings taking place every other day. This would be mostly condemned buildings. And I can't confirm, but I know for a fact that my mother was in between houses with both of us. So like me walking side by side, barely walking, and her carrying my brother on the hip. I know that when I got to meet her some 15 years later, she told me that it was rough like that for her in the Bronx. And she hustled and did everything she could to keep us for as long as she could.
Did you ever find out where other members of your biological family were? It seems like your mother kind of, was by herself a little bit.
My mother was totally by herself, and my mother was an only child. So there was no big family there.
Right.
he had some kids before me and my little brother, and one of them died, and then there were two more that their fathers went and took care of their fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Their fathers took care of their kids, so they had, you know, family. But me and my brother didn't have family. We weren't. Nobody came for us.
I'm going to identify with you early and
Yeah.
say that I also spent years of my life in foster care. We were placed in foster care when I was 7 years old, and the things that so many young people experience in their life before the age of 7 years old is just mind blowing. How would we ever know or be able to clearly contextualize American life if people like you didn't step forward to share your story?
Yeah.
Some people might call it unbelievable to think that a young person, 5 years old, Andre Van Lund, he's never had a hug and a kiss and somebody to tell him that they loved him, all three of those things in a row at the same time. He never saw it in the first, almost decade of his life. People might say you're making things up.
No,
Hey Yvonne, how you doing, Miss Yvonne? Hey, how you doing? We got Miss Yvonne in the building. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's super serious. Like, I have children of my own now, and who you are personality wise is formed before age 5. Language is formed before age 5. Like, I knew so much Spanish and stuff before age 7 because that's what the Bronx was comprised of. It was mostly the areas of the Bronx that I was in was mostly Spanish and mostly Black. So I knew a lot of different languages.
Right.
The beginnings of it, and we are sponges in those formative years.
That's right.
That's where all the toys, the educational toys, are sold to the kids that are 5 and under. It's because that is when we learn the most about who we are. That is when we're formed as human beings, and that's when we learn to walk. That's when we learn to mimic our surroundings. And I seen nothing but adults behaving badly. Like, that was everything that I saw. The crackheads, the dope fiends leaning. I thought it was so funny. I seen so many of them by the time that I just thought that that's how some people stood. I didn't know that they were high off life, like off drugs and leaning. I just thought that's how people stood. And it was funny. I had gotten basically all my pockets run through and robbed by an older kid. And that would happen all the time. That happened to me in the Bronx. That happened to me in Brooklyn when I later on moved there. But it was so normal. I would just be like, put my hands up and just let the kids run through my pockets because of the poverty and the anger and how dare you have anything nice type of thing. That attitude is strong and prevalent and pervasive in the hood growing up.
Right.
And you see that among our Black communities so much, even so much so that I was scared to later on when I was able to get a car and stuff. I was scared to buy the car that I really wanted because I was living in a place that was predominantly Black. And I thought, hey, the same thing that used to happen to me as a kid will happen to me now, but now I have more to lose.
Right.
So that's what you start to form a perspective of life at ages 0 to 5, and then 7 to 10. Like, you start to form a perspective that you have to go back and fix later on as an adult. Like, there's so many things. If you don't fix it, you're going to be crippled.
That's right.
And there's so many ways of having to be, so much hardness. Like, I was so hard. I was the kid who never smiled in any class picture. I was the kid who would punch somebody quickly because I was just like, oh, I'm gonna sting them first and see what happens, because that's better than getting beat up or robbed again.
Right.
So I was angry. That was my response. My first response was anger. And like I said, I have a little son, and I think most kids who are in foster care, we don't have the ability to emotionally filter and work through our issues. So anger is the first thing we go to.
Pure Pure anger.
Anger.
Yeah.
And it's that was my biggest fight. Anger, how to get rid of the anger from my surroundings, from the adults behaving badly. I had no trust. Now, if you can't trust, you can't do what I've done. Like I've built a business. You can't build businesses by yourself. Right. You can't do anything of note and anything that has legacy and depth without other people. But I had no trust. I was super angry. I was the proper setup for recidivism and lifelong criminal.
That's right. So when I listen to people talk about their experience in their 30s, how they, you know, got into a particular situation and it was so traumatic, it was so tough that it changed them into a different person. I'm thinking this is the life that so many adults have to live. But for you, Andre, you had a life at the age of 7 years old, 8 years old, that was so traumatic that it changed who you were. You know, at least for that period of time, you had to become a totally different person.
I had to,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I said I had to, in essence, become a man.
Yeah.
Because I was bouncing from these homes, every single home with my little brother in tow. So I'm holding my brother's hand, carrying a trash bag full of all of our belongings every single time we had to move. Some places it would be a few months you're in a place, some place you get comfortable, a year, you start calling the person mom or dad, and then boom, you kicked out for whatever reason. You got to go to the next house, just pack your stuff up, leave all those bonds, leave any trust you've built, and then bam, that's the next thing. So I became a man. I didn't have a fun childhood. And I didn't even have I wouldn't say I really started enjoying life until I was like 3 decades in.
Right. That's right.
Right. I didn't even feel like that. And because I was responsible for my brother, I was responsible for myself, and I put it on my back to get out the hood by any means necessary. Like I knew what the hood was. I walked over a dead body on the way to school. I knew what the hood was. I knew how it felt to be there. I knew it was over.
Right.
I knew I had to leave it behind.
You knew that if you didn't find a way to make your life better, that you were doomed.
I was doomed. Definitely.
At what point did you evaluate yourself and say, in order for me to survive, I'm going to have to address my anger issues? You know, they say you can't change something until you want to change it. When did you want to address your anger issues?
So I'll never forget it. I was up for adoption. Like all parental rights were released. Me, my brother, by the grace of God, we stayed together through all of those transitions. I'll call it, right? 9 different placements.
Right. Yep.
And you know, I had to fight. I still got scars on my hands from those days. The thing that happened to me was I had one person step up, a foster mother step up, and she later on adopted me at age 10. She told me something that an adult never told me before. She said, I don't care where you were before this. You have the right, if you have the audacity, to decide what your life is going to be like. And I'm going to give you a place to sleep while you figure out what it is you want to do. Yeah. I call her my angel because she challenged me. She was a hard lady, you know. I call it luck that I met her, because I was a sponge looking for something good. I was so angry. And she was the person who said, you're going to have to put that down to pick life up.
Wow. You know what? I think it's interesting that underneath the shell of an angry child, a fighting child, the angry fighting child, you were a sponge looking for something good. I think that's deep.
Yeah.
How many angry fighting young people? We just lost a young lady in our community just a day or so ago, fighting
Yep.
in foster care, lost her life.
Dead.
How many angry, fighting young people are out there in our city, our neighborhoods, our homes tonight? Who's a sponge looking for something good?
And you know what is so crazy? Like me and my wife are looking to adopt too, because you got to pay it forward, right? You can't just keep it to yourself. So these kids don't know that sponge is happening underneath the anger. All they identify with is the anger. They need just like one person to push to get through. And the only reason that my mother who adopted me got through to me was that she was consistent. She was the only consistent adult that was in my entire life that whole time. The social workers were funny. I used to hear them arguing about where to place me and my brother and how to do it. And put him by himself. They used to just fight. So imagine me listening to that and thinking like, oh, they just treated me like a commodity or something to do. They not putting like, I need my brother. Who else do I have? He needs me. Who else do we have? He was asthmatic growing up, and I used to have to save his life over and over and over again when he's wheezing and stuff like that, because we're in homes with roaches and rats and all that stuff. So and that inflames asthma. So I was super lucky to cross paths with somebody who grew up hard. She grew up in Guyana, South America. Her name is Travis Parnell. I got to give her that love and respect and shout her out, because she saved me on that path. I was already going. She said, this is later on, years down the road. She says, Andre, you were the angriest child I have ever had in my house. Wow. And she raised 25 men throughout the years passing through her house. Everybody from drug dealers, everybody from hard street dudes. She raised those guys and helped steer them a little bit. And the thing that she said, the innate anger, the place you came in my house, I've never seen it before. I've never seen a young boy never smile. I've never seen a young boy quick to strike. Thought, just boom, just go. It's on. We popping. And I think a lot of adults it's called, and I teach this stuff now, but a lot of adults, we react instead of responding. And so for me to learn the difference between that, I had to be taught that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like to react is just off the cuff. And the response takes some thinking, and it takes a beat of time. And it takes consideration of the outcome that is going to come down the road if you take said action. Like I had to be taught that. And I think that once I got taught that, that's where the anger started to subside. Because I was like, I'm no longer reactionary. I'm no longer a victim. Victims respond angrily. If you corner a cat, that cat is going to get out of that corner. Regardless. That's human. That's fight or flight. That's nature. And so what was being cultivated in me was that anger, and it took consistent, and I'm saying like love and kindness, because that's what my mother gave me, was it was like a splash of love and kindness between darkness everywhere. And so it was just a thin sliver of, she might care about me. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see when push comes to shove what she's gonna choose. You know, like there's a lot of doubt and a lot of mistrust. And even running my business now and all the stuff that I do now, still the trust for people to do what they say they're gonna do. I find that theme coming around and around and around. And it was only one person that gave me any cause, and even to this day, she's still alive. Even to this cause, I've never caught her in a lie. So there's power in truth. That's a message too. There's power in truth. Even if it's ugly, she'll give it to you raw and ugly.
I would like to take a moment to thank and give respect and pay homage to the women out there and the men out there who are able to pierce the veil of others and deliver the medicine that people need. Everybody can't pierce that veil, you know. And if you come in contact with an adult who's able to pierce the veil and do something positive in your life, and pierce the veil and do something effective and helpful in your life, I'm not going to say that it's luck, but I do think that that's a fortunate thing to happen to you. So many people, they never get that person who knows how to slice through the fluff of your defense mechanisms and tell you what you need to be told in a way that encourages you to use that platform as a way to take control of your life and begin to respond instead of react. Right. Some people go their whole lives and they're still reactionaries.
Yeah.
They are still reactionary. I'm concerned about having effective conversations and providing effective experience for people to make that paradigm shift. Right. I don't think that it's good enough for just an Andre to have had that person that was able to pierce that veil. You know, I think that we need to afford more young people who are likely angry or upset, who are likely fighting or providing dysfunction to their environment, an opportunity to change their paradigm by having an experience that pierces their veil. Now, when did you ever hear of a motivational speaker?
My first motivational, she was kind of my first motivational speaker.
Yeah, she was.
She would just talk to you,
right?
Whether you wanted to hear it or not. You'd be like, "All right, mom, all right, whatever," and then you just walk off, right?
Right. Yeah.
But she provided the first place for me to start to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was nobody outside of my home. It was no teacher. It was no guidance counselor. I was told I was dumb. I was told I would never amount to much. All of that was told. I was getting the negative reinforcement outside. She just made sure that at home that I would get that motivation. The first speaker outside and the only Black man to ever speak anything on my life was Les Brown.
Wow.
I seen him speak and I was in my 20s. Now, a lot of people think that once you get adopted, like, everything's good. No, that's the first time you ever get to start to heal.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually stop this cloak of survival, all of the things that helped you live this long, like not trusting people, like punching people in the mouth right away and getting off, like hustling in the streets if you got to. All of that stuff, you get to take that off when you got a bed to sleep in. So that was the thing she provided me for 7 years. I got provided a bed. And once my teenage years, she was the motivational speaker in my life. And then Les Brown came in when I was 20, 21. I had finally heard him say there was greatness in everybody. And I was like, not where I live. There ain't greatness in everybody where I live. Right. But then I started to, here's another shift that happened. And here's a thing I'd like to put out there. There is at least one person who believes in everybody, no matter how terrible they are. There's one person who believes in the murderer on death row right now. So you got to have the ear to hear that person. That might not be your mom. That might be a dude on the street who follows you around and you don't really like him. It might be a little kid that looks up to you or something. There's always somebody who believes in you. So my person came in the form of Travis Farnell, right? But there is somebody in everybody's life who believes in them, whether it be a little brother, like somebody else who it could be anyone who's looking up to. So don't close your ears and your eyes. You got to hunt for that little belief in someone else. It's a wicker a lot of times, a little wick, one flickering candle sometimes. And you got to be smart enough to see the candle and say, that's who believes in me. I'm going to ride with that idea instead of the 99,100,000, 11,7
that's right
ideas that are saying I'm supposed to fail.
That's right.
So it was at that point of listening to Les Brown and believing, like, yeah, my mom said the same thing he said, but they don't know each other. That was the first Black man to speak anything great on my life, which is why I said I'm going to be one of the Black men who speaks greatness into other people's lives.
Right. Mothers are motivational speakers, potentially.
Potential.
That was a great comment that you made there. And I find it interesting that you didn't actually hear someone who called themselves a motivational speaker providing a motivational message until you were 20 years old. And I believe that we have to, when I say we, I'm talking about me and people who see things the way I do, get in front of young people far before the age of 20 to say, listen, you are great. You have the capacity to do great things. Just like Andre just said, somebody out there looks up to you or looks into you or sees something great in you. And if nobody else does it, I do it. Right? What did high school look like for you?
High school looked like three different. It looked like three different situations.
Okay.
So my mother, who adopted us, right? So she, when I say my mother, I mean her. And right. So she moved us from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, just like during the height of the cocaine era. She moved us to New Jersey.
Okay.
And so that was when I was 13 that happened. And so I went to a school called Spotswood High School, which was an all-white high school, blue ribbon high school.
Okay.
So imagine going from the crack-filled streets of Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn,
right,
to green grass, and you're the only black person for miles.
Okay.
That was my experience for 2 years.
That must have been tough for you socially, being from that environment, because now you almost represent that area at a time in your life where you're trying to transform into something better. You're trying to transform into something better, but you represent, depending on how far somebody's relationship goes to you represent that neighborhood that you came from. And so that's a tough social dynamic. How did you push through and become, the most positive version of Andre Van Lun, when people might be looking at you saying, look at this ghetto angry kid. That's not even you anymore.
That's what everybody thought of me. Yo, the guidance counselors, because they get your jacket. They get the psychological evaluation jacket on you that has emotionally disturbed on it. That's the guidance counselors. That's the teachers. So they know who's in their classroom. So they treated me funny. They steered me towards vocations and stuff like that. Where I made it, look, back when I was 10, walking around the dead body in the street, I made up my mind that I'm going to use education. So I never made anything less than a B in high school. That's right. And these people were judging me. They didn't look like me. They didn't navigate any of the streets I navigated. They only knew the news, which the news showed people like me fighting over drugs, like killing each other like crazy. So this is what people thought of me when I came in there. Man, I got called the N-word so much. Wow. Yo, it was insane because they couldn't see a black man. They saw, they saw what they saw. Right. They saw what the media told them to see.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Did you have breakthroughs by way of programs? Did you build relationships with people who didn't know any better in the beginning, but they learned?
I did.
Was there a breakthrough for you there?
I did. I played football because I was so angry, and it was legal to hit people as hard as you possibly can.
Right.
So I was the middle linebacker, and I was just cracking skulls. I was very good at it. Never put on football pads or equipment before that. And ninth grade, just varsity, right? Smacking people.
Right.
So I had team come around me because of that. And I remember I did make one friend. Well, one friend, I would say I was able to go in their homes and hang out. And then because he was like a popular friend, like a popular person,
Mm-hmm.
Like there were 2 other families that I went to their homes, but I couldn't go.
Okay.
I wasn't able to go in anyone else's home. I didn't get any invites or anything like that. It's that area of New Jersey was super conservative. So in that 2 years,
Okay.
I got to see, I went from hand-me-down 5th edition books to now, oh, you could get a computer now. Oh, there's lunch and French fries and good food and healthy nutrition at the schools now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say eating better helped me. Eating
That's right.
better helped me. My mind was clear. I was always fueled. There would be times I'd be so tired in class growing up that I couldn't even study or think about anything. And so in the school, I got to think better. I got to make relationships with fellow football players and things like that. And now some of them even are on my Facebook.
Right.
And it's crazy. I started a group not long ago with 25 men, white men, and I asked them to ask me any question they would ask wanted to ask a black male. And the reason why I did that was because I was in their world and I understood their world and how they see things. And then I was in the effect of what America does to disempower black people and how it ends up. So I had 2 far right, far left perspectives on an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to bridge the gap with like my football boys,
Right. That's right. That's right.
And now they're grown men now. And now they have gained perspective because they allowed me to be around them and in their circles and understand them. I have a guy, his name is George. We still friends to this day. And I spent 2 years there, maybe 2 years. And then I was back to Plainfield High School where I graduated from. And that was all black, and I would say suburban kind of place, because it didn't feel like the war zone that Brooklyn was. And it wasn't Spotswood by any means, but it was somewhere in the middle. And that's where I did my high school. And I got to see a lot of wasted potential. The fastest kid wasn't in school. The strongest kid wasn't in school. I got to see people take for granted opportunities that I jumped at because I never would have had them anywhere. Right? There was a weight room. There was a gym in there. Like the schools I went to in Brooklyn, I didn't have none of that. There was a whole new wings built for education in Plainfield. And it was just like first off, the school took up a whole block.
Well, hold on. This is a very good example of what changing your environment can do. There are people who appear to be completely dysfunctional that would be a top performer if their environment was better. I feel that there are a lot of communities in our country that are simply suffocating. And they are frustrated with being suffocated. And one of the positives of going into the system and or being adopted is that you get to see different environments, and you get to see, the difference of having a better diet made available to you, better facilities made available to you, and higher quality of people made available to you, and how you're able to take that and literally transform. And this is what is so important about you, Andre, is that you felt that transformation. You felt the way that you transformed when you were placed into a new environment. I want everybody out there to think about the environment that we live in today. Think about the symptoms of that environment and realize that if we change our environments, if we change our communities, then we can change the potential, the behaviors, and the futures of our very own folks. We'll be right back after a brief message. Sit tight. We'll be right back with more from Andre Van Lun. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Andre, how you feeling out there?
I'm feeling excellent. I'm great.
That's right. So now, you being the person experiencing all these different environments, it really suited you to provide a response to the community. Almost like, okay, my life was a case study, and now this is the solution that I feel could help young people like myself or the community. Did you ever take that approach? Did you ever decide to give back?
Yeah, absolutely. I speak or I have spoken across the nation to thousands of kids.
Wow.
Specifically in foster care situations, specifically in at-risk programs. Where everywhere I live, I speak. It's like in me, because I never had anyone that looked like me come to speak to me. I remember the DARE program was it. Don't use drugs. It was a cop.
Resist.
Yeah, back in the 80s, right? That's the only time anybody came in to speak and tell us something good. So I said, I want to be that person. I want to be that person. And so I speak with currently now I'm part of a group where it's Black men mentoring Black boys. And then that is because of the injustices, like the demographics of us being killed and incarcerated are vastly higher than anyone else's. And I was walking that road, right? I was gonna be that person. And I was able to do a move, do a spin move in football. I'm gonna get back to football, right? I was able to do a spin move and get out of that, the grasp of that. There's a thing that I teach called the almost probable future. What's the almost probable future of what your life would be like if you continue doing exactly what you're doing? And I ask these kids that because that is not a common sense question for the kids that are forced to be leaders. If you're in foster care, you are forced to be a leader of your life. You're forced to be your personal development person. You're forced to, there's no parents that are going to do that for you. You are a leader in that moment. And I tell these kids, you are the leader. And I specifically speak to kids aging out. Because as soon as I was 17, I had to go like that. My mom's house rents out at 17. So I went into the military after that, you know, where I learned even more leadership skills. And because I had worked so hard on myself, the drill sergeants were able to see that and put me in charge of 72 soldiers, leading calisthenic exercises, stuff like that. Right. So I definitely had to give back. And so since I give back a lot, part of many programs. I speak here in California to foster children in California from all walks of life. And their stories are incredible. And some of them have very similar stories to my story. And some of them have parts of it. And some of them are going down the wrong path right now. I'll never forget, I spoke to a really hard kid. And I say really hard kid is because I remember being that kid with the shell on top of a shell on top of a shell. And I remember speaking on him. He had on a really nice pair of sneakers. I collect sneakers. I collect them because when I grew up, my sneakers used to talk. Right. They used
they were hollering. Go ahead. They were hollering.
The sock used to pop through. Right. So I remember him having really nice sneakers, and they had to cost like $400 or $500. And I was speaking to him, and I said, and you could smell the aroma of the herbals on him. And I said, man, imagine if you didn't have to do what you did to get those sneakers, but you could get them anyway. And I was like, because I have the same ones in my closet, right? And I stood out on the street with those fellas, and I got the same shoes you got, different colorway, and we start talking about the sneaker. And I said, but you don't have to stand out there and do that. That's a possibility for you to save your own life and have the shoes. So I remember putting that 2 and 2 for him, and he looked at me like this, like he didn't believe me. Like, okay, whatever. But I could see that his gears were turning, and that somebody had did something that he was already going to do, or something that he felt like he needed to do, because these kids understand that the clock is ticking. That's right. Some of them are aging out of the program, and they're going to be homeless. Remember, the stats on that is 33% of those kids are become incarcerated. 40% of those kids will become homeless. Like you know the stats, those stats. And I tell them the stats. I hit kids with truth because the kids that I speak to can handle the truth because they are living in the truth.
What do you say? What do you say to young people who are aging out this year? Some of them are aging out right now. It's somebody's birthday today. Today was somebody's 21st birthday. Today was somebody's 17th, 18th, and 19th, and 20th birthday, and they are aging out today. What do you say to a young person who's aging out today? They need a word from you. What do you say to them?
I tell them, I tell them that the only way to get through hell is to keep going. If you feel as though where you are is hell. I also say that there are resources and people working just as hard for you as the circumstances around you are working against you. I give them my contacts, my cell phone, or my card. And I say, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people because I've traveled this North America, South America, Europe. I've been all over the place doing what I do. Right. So I say, if I don't know, I know someone who can help furnish or facilitate your next step. And you know what? The kid that is on his way out, he's gonna grab. The kid who turned 21 today, everything is over. He's gonna get kicked out. He's gonna grab. And if he doesn't grab, he's gonna feel. And I never count these kids out. As long as they can breathe, they could win. I tell them that as long as you have breath, you can win. There's times when I was without money, when I was homeless. There's times when I've been in look at my bank account and there's like $7 in there and you can't take it out. Right. I've been in those hard times as a young adult, even with the help. So the hard times are gonna come. Even with being poured into, the hard times are gonna come. But can you be harder? Can you still run fast with the heat turned up? That's right. So I tell them they have the ability to do it, and it doesn't make any sense for them to stop.
Let's continue to make this a victorious moment for young people and adults out there in the general public tonight. By the way, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe to our episode tonight. Everybody's going to have a point where they're making a forecast in their life. And they're thinking about where their life is going. They're thinking about how they're going to get there. And for some people, they hear a conversation like this and they say, oh, well, it sounds good, but how do I actually apply that to my life? How do I actually, deal with myself in a way that's going to allow me to be a successful person? And so what I want to know from you is, how were you able to help yourself from an emotional standpoint? Did you go to counseling? Did you obtain mentors? Did you begin to read books? Because I'm not hearing where you had the effective relationship with your biological father. I'm not hearing where you circled back to your biological mother. I'm not hearing where you were repaired. I hear where you went from tough to tougher to toughest. But for some people, don't know where that capacity is inside them. And I want to make sure that they get some takeaways that they can use tomorrow. How did you repair yourself? Who helped you?
So aside from my mother, I didn't have any formal therapy, any counseling. I did educate myself. I got a 4-year degree in exercise physiology. I had to study humans really hard. It was because I was in survival mode and I didn't want to become a victim again. So I had to study human behavior. I had to study what people say. In college, I took psychology, just an abnormal psychology, just to understand sort of how everything that I had endured happened. Mm-hmm. Once I understood how it happened, I knew how to make it not happen again. So education was my number one weapon. Education, number one weapon. And then here's something that happened for me. I believe that I met my mom because as a kid, I said, this cannot be my story. This cannot be my dead end. It was something in me, and I have a friend whose name is Raphael Gordon. He says, my location is not my destination. That's right. I knew that in my head as a little child, that my location is not my destination. And so I believe that once I realized and believed that I can make it through whatever life throws at me, because all of this is hard. All of this is hard and I'm eating it. All of this is hard and I'm eating it. I had to look at my past track record. Look what I overcame to understand that I could go so far, I can't even see it right now. Mm-hmm. That's right. So if you've gone through a lot in the battlefield, you got to look back at I conquered this, I conquered that, I conquered this. And so by me doing that, I think that attracted my mother into my life. I think that attracted a little bit of stability in my teenage years. I think that attracted the strength for me to go and graduate. That attracted me writing 4 books. That attracted me working with celebrities and traveling the globe. That attracted all of that stuff because I was grateful for my pain, grateful for the bodies I left behind, grateful for gratitude is something that is not taught in schools, but it should be taught in schools. Mm-hmm. And I'm teaching my children that, and they're 10 months. So they're going to be grateful for everything going up because gratitude brings you a different attitude, and that attitude brings you a different aptitude, and you can fly after that.
That's right. Wow.
So that's what turned around for me, was being grateful for the ugly circumstances, being grateful for the great circumstances. And when beautiful blessings were coming into my life, I snatched them. I wrote a book called Focus on Better. And that is the key to getting out of any hole. If you're super angry,
talk about that. Break that down for us.
So focus on better means if you're angry, look to be confused to why it happened. If you're confused, look to see your part in the confusion.
Okay.
And then guess what that takes you? That takes you to education. You got to Google something. You got to learn something to connect the dot between your bad situation and where you got.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so in the study, that's where you find the options. Mm-hmm. Right? This is where you find out, like, oh, there's a TRO problem. There's a TRO project that puts kids in homes, that puts young people in homes. And now you don't have to pay rent for such and such a month. It's because you went researching to understand why you were where you were. And then you took responsibility for why you were where you were, even if it wasn't your fault. Here's the thing. Even if a bad situation is not your fault, sometimes you're responsible for fixing it.
That's right. This is huge. This is absolutely huge.
That, to me, I realized that at an early age, because everybody who was supposed to be there for me messed up. Like everybody, my dad, my mom, all the family, nobody took me in. Like, and there was ample time and space for them to take me. Right. So, after reconnecting with my dad and being rejected by him as an adult and having that trauma happen in my late 20s, going into my 30s. So I had to once again focus on better. I was pissed off, angry. Then I had to say to myself, okay, this situation has happened. Who will I be in the face of the situation?
That's right.
And then I looked at different people who overcame the situation. And for a lot of kids and for a lot of adults too, look for somebody famous who has a similar story to yours. There's always somebody famous and celebrated by the world who has a very similar story to yours.
Who are some of the people? Who are some of the people that have notoriety that you admire? Who are some of those people?
Yeah. So for me, that the character in Antoine Fisher, was basically a very similar story to mine. The only thing is that my mother wasn't strung out on drugs. I just realized that she was in stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why she gave her kids up. Stage 4 cancer and mental illness. That's another thing to talk about too, is because there were so many times that I was on the brink of cracking, and the only thing that saved me from cracking was focusing on a fairy tale tomorrow that didn't exist in my present tense. So
yep.
You got to make good stories.
That's
Make up great stories. That's what focusing on better is. That's why I wrote the book. It's because if you can make up a good enough story and live into the story, you'll have some iteration or some variation of that story that was fake become your reality. Like what I do right now was a dream that I had. The twins in the other room were a dream that I had. The car that I drive, the fact that I'm in California, dream that I had. All of it was fake, all of it, but I made a damn good story. And what human beings do is we make bad stories and wonder why we live them. We make horrible stories. Worst case scenarios is all we think about. Then we get worst case scenario and wonder how it happened. So I believe that as soon as your point of attraction, your focus, your awareness is moved to a better place, then is when you start to pull the greatness towards you, because you got to be a match for it.
That's right.
The subtitle for my book, Focus on Better, is becoming a match for success, happiness, and fulfillment. And those are things that I have. Those are the things that my clients have now. Those are things that I never saw as a possibility, but by focusing on the little bit of tiny steps, the little bit of wins, and I call them the bodies on the battlefield, because all of us go through battle. You got to be a match for the things you want.
That's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
I want to connect some dots of what we've talked about tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Andre Van Lund, and he said some remarkable things in the past few minutes here. If you're just now tuning in, we are mindful tonight about the young people and the adults who might not have gotten the effective conversations. They might not have had the relationships, and they still need the substance that has been inside of this hour here on America's Next Motivator. What we're raising awareness about tonight is the fact that you are going to seek illumination at some point in your life. You're going to seek enlightenment. You're going to seek the feeling of being high off life. And your experiences, whether you're in foster care or outside of foster care, are all fuel. They are elements that build up a situation where you've got to transform. We are calling on your transformation tonight. You have to take it upon yourself to transform. And I'm going to share something with you. You got to take it upon yourself to throw some things in the trash. There might be some things that you believe in that you need to ball up and slam dunk it in the trash. Things like throwing temper tantrums, things like burning bridges because you're upset for the moment. Some of the things that our environment has convinced us is okay, we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to destroy that. We're going to have to take some things, ball them up, and put them in the trash. This is your life. You can create your future, is what we're raising awareness about tonight. Make believe, use your imagination, create the world that you want to see. Live it, dream it, redream it, redream it. It comes a time in your life where you're gonna have to reverse engineer yourself. All these things connect. You're gonna have to research, go out there and find something new. Find a way to repair yourself, build a relationship with somebody, reverse engineer yourself. Create a life that's gonna make you happy, make you a good person for the people around you. You'll be happy you did it, and you'll be a better person for it. You'll be surprised at who you can become. Andre, I got a few questions for you as you round third base here, and I really enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Same here, Cedric.
Yeah, where can people find you if they want to hire you, bring you in to speak, or bring you in to consult? How can people find you?
You can go on my website, which is andrevanlund.com, or you could type in avisionlived.com. motivator.com, if that's easier to remember, because the name of my company is A Vision Lived.
Absolutely.
I'm living the vision I created for myself. People called me lucky. They call me lucky, but they don't know behind the scenes the amount of work, the amount of transformation I did on myself to be a match for the stuff that I have in my life.
That's right. No matter what you've been through in life, everybody, you can create a vision for your future. Create your own idea of what should happen in your life. I don't care if you're in foster care. I don't care if you never got adopted. I don't care if you aged out today. I don't care if your mother, father's not there. Create the rest of your life.
Yep.
Andre,
without a vision, ye shall perish.
We've got 20 seconds left in the show.
Oh, okay.
What is survival left? What is survival to you?
Survival is staying alive long enough to do something great with your life.
What is success to you?
Success to me is being used 100% by God uniquely to give a mission or a message to someone else.
What is greatness to you?
And greatness is allowing God to move you, God to work through you. And greatness is also other people now speak the legacy that you left behind with them.
That's right. That's right. Andre, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I love how you pushed through, you overcame the challenges that existed in your life, and you built solutions for your community. You are a great role model as to where we need to go with the experiences that could have held us back. Everybody get your crown emojis ready. We're giving you respect today while you're still alive to receive it, and we're giving you a crown today while you're still alive to receive it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. We are letting you know, letting the world know that you, Andre Van Lund, these are your crowns out there. You are America's next motivator.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. You got crowns coming into the building. I appreciate you tonight, man. London. All right. Thanks for stopping by, sir.
Yes, my pleasure. Salute to you. Thank you for what you're doing, Cedric.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop by and pick it up.